Hi, I'm Rick Moriarty from syracuse.com and the Post-Standard, and I'm standing in front of the former mother house of the Sisters of St. Francis. 2 weeks ago, there was a major fire here that lasted for 24 hours and took off the building's roof, 4th floor, and part of its 3rd floor. The city has determined that this building is unsafe and has ordered an emergency demolition, so it's going to be coming down very soon. This is the end of a very sad story for this building. It stood here as an anchor on the north side for more than 100 years. The sisters moved out in 2014, and they sold it to a Syracuse developer, Mark Congel, in 2015 for $500,000. Now, Congel had a history of redeveloping historic buildings into apartments, and that was what his plans were for this building. But they never came off. This was never going to be an easy building to redevelop. It was built for a specific purpose that was not residential, and he was never able to get the project done. So a few years ago, he reached a deal to sell it to a company out of Rochester, which was going to build apartments here. It was going to be a very expensive project. But they've been working on their financing for the last 3 years. And in the meantime, the developer pulled his professional security that he had here taking care of the property, and because he said he couldn't afford it any longer. And as a result, a lot of bad elements found their way onto this property. And among the bad elements that got in here were arsonists. A few years ago, somebody set fire to the gymnasium on the property, and just 2 weeks ago, somebody, police suspect, set the fire that burned the top of this building. There are some critics that say the city should have done more, should have come in here and taken over the whole property and set up their own security. But the city said it was very limited on what it could do. The developer was paying his property taxes, and the city said there's really nothing they could do. This was the responsibility of the owner. But there are other buildings on this convent, and that Rochester company that has a plan to buy the property from Mr. Congel says it still wants to go forward with the project and develop over 150 apartments in the other buildings.